Welcome back to the channel. When a nation becomes a corporation, The Quiet Death of Democracy by Gerald Chambers. Just some images I put together. Hope you guys just ride with me through this. We need to talk about some stuff that's going on in our society. Search for truth cannot be stopped. This is an image that I enhanced. I put jazz in here because my friend Irony thinks that classical music is the highest form of the art, and I think it's improvisation, so I think it's jazz. And so when you're talking about recovering, you're always talking about improvising. And I think the jazz men did something really important. They encourage us to keep time and create something new. And so that's what I think we're trying to do in life, or we should be trying to do. And so I'm a recovering person, as you know, and so we have a universal program that promotes goodwill, society, service, God. It doesn't have to be the guy in the sky. It can be just good, orderly direction, self, and freedom. And the higher, the wider the base, the higher the point of freedom, we say. And so now I'm kind of working on society and trying to get my interventions out into the community because we really need it. Love versus fear. Here's where we're going. Why a nation must not become a corporation. We're going to be talking about different ends, different souls, psychological consequences, from citizen to consumer, emergent control without conspiracy, moral inversion, when the state stops asking, should we? Social trust as collateral damage, time horizon collapse, the hidden contradiction, what we can do as recovering people, and then governance over liquidation. And here's just an image of what it looked like, the mess it was prior to me putting this all together. And this is just some of my collage work and some of my images. All these images are available on t-shirts, or most of them. Why a nation must not become a corporation. A national government exists to cultivate conditions for collective flourishing, whereas a corporation exists to maximize private return. When a nation adopts the operating logic of a corporation, it inverts its moral purpose, erodes psychological health, and replaces citizenship with managed consumption. This shift is not merely political, it's civilizationally destabilizing. And that's a lot of what we see going on in our society right now and what we need to recover from. Different ends, different souls. Every institution contains an implicit answer to the question, what are you for? A nation is oriented toward human dignity, social stability, intergenerational continuity, and the protection of vulnerable members. A corporation is oriented toward profit maximization, market expansion, cost minimization, shareholder value. When national governance adopts corporate logic, means replace ends. People cease to be ends in themselves and become inputs in an economic machine. Philosophically, this represents a collapse from moral reasoning into instrumental reasoning. Citizens become resources. Communities become markets. Suffering becomes a line item. And so I'm bringing this up because a lot of people voted for Trump because they felt like he would be he's a good businessman and things would be better. Psychological consequences from citizen to consumer. I'm referring to a society that produces distress at scale, thereby creating demand for numbing solutions. This pattern makes sense under corporate logic. Distress leads to demand, demand leads to profit, incentives maintain conditions that generate distress. In a public interest state, widespread suffering is a policy failure. In a corporate state, widespread suffering becomes a growth sector. This produces a psychologically devastating identity shift. Citizens participate in a shared project. Consumers, isolated chooser, navigating scarcity. Consumers are trained to ask, what can I get? Citizens ask, what kind of society are we building? The difference of the second question signals democratic decay. So now you got a barcode on your head. Emergent control without conspiracy. Sedation does not require centralized evil intent. Instead, high stress systems, profit-driven solutions, political convenience naturally align. No secret meeting is required. When healthcare profits from chronic illness, tech profits from compulsive engagement, pharma profits from symptom management, alcohol and cannabis industries profit from escape. A civilization quietly drifts toward managed despair. This is more dangerous than overt tyranny because people feel free while being functionally pacified. A corporate state does not need to silence dissent. It merely needs to exhaust and distract. And what are they trying to distract you from? They're trying to distract you from the democratic process. They're trying to distract you from a healthier society. And for those members of our society that are American descendants of slaves, they're trying to distract you from your legal reparations claim. Moral inversion. The state stops asking, should we? Public interest governance is constrained by ethical questions. Should we allow this? Does this harm the social fabric? What are the long-term consequences? Corporate logic replaces these with, does it scale? Is it legal? Is it profitable? Legality becomes a substitute for morality. Well, not in this case. But legality can be purchased. Profitability cannot evaluate human meaning. This is how societies end up with legal but destructive products, legal but addictive platforms, legal but socially corrosive industries. The corporate state governs by market permission, not moral judgment. Report these nuts. Social trust as collateral damage. Nations require trust. Trust requires perceived fairness, shared sacrifice, credible commitment to the common good. Corporate logic undermines all three. When people observe that losses are socialized, profits are privatized, rules apply differently upward. They do not merely become angry, they become cynical. Cynicism is fatal to democracy. It's also fatal to your recovery. Cynical populations disengage, polarize, or self-medicate. A corporate state then interprets disengagement as a branding problem rather than a legitimacy crisis. Without due process, it's just kidnapping. Time horizon collapse. Public interest states think in generations. Corporations think in quarters. When quarterly thinking governs a nation, infrastructure decays. Education becomes job training only. Environmental damage is deferred. Long-term risks are discounted. This creates a civilization that consumes its own future. Short-term optimization produces long-term fragility. So we cannibalize the future. When we are acting on our addiction, we are destroying our future. We're witnessing an environmental disaster of the first order, the total destruction of the planet's life-sustaining rainforest. You know what to do with ice. No justice, no profit. Here we updated Frederick Douglass to make him more cool for our time. If he was around now, he'd probably be wearing some sunglasses. But anyway, you always got to have some nudes and some artwork. The hidden contradiction: corporations depend on stable societies, but corporate logic undermines social stability. This contradiction means the corporate state extracts from the very conditions it needs to survive, weakens the foundations that allow markets to exist. It's cannibalistic. So a lot of what we're seeing in this Epstein case is rampant addiction. People at the highest level of our society practicing addiction, sexual addiction, drug addiction, addiction to power, money, property, and prestige, and just creating a big problem for our society and cannibalizing not only their own future, but our future as well. Oh, there we go. Me and Pierre. I don't like doing these immigration raids, but it's got to be done. And I put France Fanon on a postage stamp for you, just in case you need that on a T-shirt. You need to holler at me. There he is, El Hajj Malik El Shabazz. Oscar Grant, you make me want to holler. Justice, separate and unequal. Put a little neo soul. That is a sculpture of mine that I updated with the text and the background. Jet Magazine. There's a father reading to his child, Dionne Warwick. I just threw this in here because I found a Jet Magazine for you. Thought it'd be some visual candy. What we can do as recovering people: admit structural powerlessness over profit-driven incentives, recognize the unmanageability produced by this system, recommit to a higher organizing principle than profit. Translated politically, reassert government as a guardian of public good. Treat mass suffering as a policy emergency, not a revenue stream. Measure success in health, trust, and stability, not GDP alone. This mirrors recovery. We cease organizing life around substance and begin organizing it around meaning. We got to do the same thing in this country. And wrapping it up, a nation that becomes a corporation does not merely change management styles. It abandons its soul. The proper function of government is not to win markets. It's to hold the moral center of a civilization. When profit becomes the supreme value, everything else becomes negotiable, including human dignity. That's not governance. That's liquidation. Transform or transmit. So I thought this would be, I wanted to put this together because I think what we need now is recovery. I think recovery is where we don't just stop destructive behavior. We actually work on changing our attitude and behavior, and we repair the damage that we did. Diversity is our strength. You hear these guys running around at the top of our society talking about empathy doesn't matter and doing things only for profit. I think we need to recover from that, and recovery is possible for anyone. And what the people that are in the Epstein files, their names are in the files, recovery is also available for them, but they got to stop the behavior first. And I think we need to shake up the top. That's why we need reparations. You may not hear another therapist talking about that. You don't just need anger management. You just don't need communication skills, especially if you are an American descendant of slavery. You also need to be made whole. You need to be reimbursed or, for the damage that was heaped upon you, upon us, the damage that continues to be heaped upon us. Another one of my sculptures. Thank you for riding with me. Till next time.